What's up, nerds? I found a really bizarre Reddit thread and I thought I would share it with you. I haven't read through it. We're gonna do that together. The title, it's called "My Boyfriend Killed a Man 10 Years Ago. How do I get my mom to accept him?" Let's get into it. My boyfriend killed a man 10 years ago. How do I get my mom to accept him? I've changed names and ages to not get recognized. Of course. I met David about 6 months ago. I met him through friends and we clicked and became good friends pretty fast. One night when we were drinking, we began talking about the past. He told me he had been admitted to a psych hospital a couple of years and then told me he had killed a friend in a psychotic break and had been all over news media. His story were all over the place when it happened, so I recognized him when he told me. I just hadn't made the connection. Okay, his sentence was to undergo psychiatric treatment and he's on medication now and really regrets doing it. He tells me it was like a dream and he remembers it as such. He was also on a lot of drugs at the time. He's completely different now and I trust him. He's the sweetest guy I've ever met. And to be honest, I can't connect him to that person who was all over the media. Well, we started dating a month ago and I brought him home to meet my mother yesterday and she recognized. This is like 10 years ago and she recognized him. What is she, one of those true crime girlies? Probably. Does he have documentaries about him? She's dating a celebrity, guys. She didn't say anything to his face, but called me today. She's completely freaking out and telling me I can't date a murderer. Child, you shouldn't date a murderer. I don't think you should date a murderer. I told her he was psychotic, he's not the same person who did that, and he's heavily medicated with no intentions of stopping. But she was just completely freaking out, telling me she feared for my safety and she wouldn't have anything to do with him and I had to leave him immediately. I would tell her the same thing. Run. I told her that wasn't going to happen and she said that as long as I'm dating him, she doesn't want to see me and he's ultimately going to kill me. Daughter, you are dating a murderer. I foresee you getting killed. So I don't want to see you so I don't get attached, so you deal with that. I don't know how I would react to that. What can you do, right? I understand completely. She's fearful and anxious about the situation, rightfully so, but I still think she's overreacting. It wasn't a deliberate murder, and it honestly annoys me to no end that she thinks that I'm not able to judge his character. It wasn't a deliberate murder. So a psychotic episode is not deliberate murder. That is a way to put things. So yeah, how do I get my mom to accept the situation? I'm sure that they got so many responses not telling them how to solve the situation. I'm not saying that people who have committed horrible crimes don't deserve a second chance. That's not what I'm saying. But just from this, it's hard not to judge, I guess. Am I doomed to not see her again? Could really use some input. And then an update 2.5 months later. Hi, thanks for the responses in the last thread. A lot of people told me things I didn't want to hear. Yeah, of course. Like, I couldn't judge a person after knowing him for 6 months, which I still kind of think you can, just not as much as I hope. I mean, I guess you can kind of know a person after 6 months, depending on how much time you have actively spent together. If it's just like on weekends or something for 6 months, that's not a long time. But if you've been together every single day for many hours on end, I think it is possible to get to know somebody on a certain level. I do believe that when you live with somebody is when you actually get to know them, because you see their day-to-day, you see what they are really like. So yeah, I probably wouldn't date a murderer that has murdered before. If my partner murders somebody while we are in a relationship, that's a different conversation. What did they do? What did the person do to deserve to get murdered? You know what I mean? I'm gonna stand up for my partner. It's called loyalty. That's God punishing me, by the way. I guess some people expect something crazy to have happened, but nothing really has. Yeah, like you never updating anyone and actually being dead. Like here you are. The boring, I guess. Like you proved yourself right. He just wasn't as empathetic as I thought. I realized pretty quickly that if I didn't call him first, he wouldn't call me for days. Oh, that's a red flag. And when I told him I had a very unpleasant encounter with a guy, he just laughed and told me that if it were him, he would be happy to get the attention. Oh God. I think having a disagreement with this guy would be actually dangerous. So maybe getting into a relationship with him isn't the best idea, you know? You could maybe be friends. I mean, I wouldn't mind being friends with a murderer, like, because you don't really fight with friends that much, right? Like, I'm not used to fighting with friends. I'm all, like, I want to be on your good side, you know? And having a murderer on your side, that's, you know, they have experience, like, I just couldn't get over that he killed a guy, honestly. I mean, yeah, I mean, who would? Like, that's a pretty significant thing in your past. When I was laying in bed and he was doing something else, I couldn't stop thinking about how vulnerable I was. I didn't feel safe. So I broke up with him. I still think he deserves happiness and to move on from what he did. Agreed. I'm not the one for him and I can't help him. My mom was very relieved when I told her we broke up. I didn't tell her why, just that it didn't work out. Well, you could tell her, like, man, is that you're kind of proud of, like, being like, Mom, you were right. Him being a murderer kind of, you know, kind of a red flag, you know what I mean? And although she didn't cut me out of her life like she threatened, she's been a lot warmer towards me since. About the breakup, he actually took it so well that I don't think he was ever really in love with me. So he is probably like a legit psychopath, which means that you have no empathy. Let's just look up the definition so I don't say stupid shit. A person having an egocentric and antisocial personality marked by a lack of remorse for one's action and absence of empathy for others, and often criminal tendencies. Being a psychopath doesn't mean that you are a criminal, you know, case in point, I guess. It was basically me breaking up and him saying, you gotta do what's best for you, so I wish you good luck. I'm kind of heartbroken that I apparently didn't mean that much to him, but I'm still fine. We still talk though, which is probably stupid, but he's a fun guy to talk to, and I don't feel like I can judge him for doing something while on a psychotic breakdown. Like, that's never gonna happen again. Also, as I stated in the last thread, he has no intentions of stopping with his medication. He knows he needs it for the rest of his life. As long as he follows that, he'll probably continue to be in my life. Oh my God. What are the top comments of this? And when I told him I had a very unpleasant encounter with a guy, he just laughed and told me if it were him, he would be happy to get the attention. Jesus. As long as he follows that, he'll probably continue being my life. Just having him in your life is still a risk. It was a friend that he killed after all. Oh, right. Yeah, right. Oh God, it was a friend. Right. And you can't guarantee that he will stay on that medication even if he insists he will. That is true. You can never predict the future, obviously. I don't feel like I can judge him for doing something while in a psychotic breakdown. That doing something happened to be murdering somebody. So you broke up with him, he didn't seem to care, and you want to say friends? I'm guessing you are keeping this part from your mother. Just because you have removed the label from your relationship doesn't mean that you are out of danger, if any danger was present to begin with. So basically, all you have done is broke up to hide the fact you are still seeing him from your mother. Jesus, OP, I think you need some help here. Naivety, lack of common sense, and self-esteem seem to be the big issues here. Oh, damn. Don't read them like that. Crazy. I mean, I understand. I mean, you yourself have been in love before, right? And it's like you wear the pink glasses for a while and you ignore the red flags, such as, you know, the person you love and have a crush on being a murderer. Like, you like, if you're like, oh, he's so amazing, he's the best, and he treats me so well, and he is the greatest, and I have such interesting conversations with him. I bet he is an interesting person. I mean, you murdered somebody. That's not something that you deal with every day. But yeah, let me know what you think. Would you date somebody who has murdered somebody in the past, even if it's like 10 years ago and they're now on medication and seem to be better? Would you allow, if you have kids, would you allow your kids? It's not like you have to allow. If they're an adult, they can do whatever they want. But what would your reaction be if your child dated an ex-murderer? Here's a question, right? If you have murdered somebody, can you be an ex-murderer? Because here's the thing, once you murdered somebody, you are a murderer forever, aren't you? Or would you say that after a while, if you stop doing it, you're not a murderer anymore? Because it's not like they're a crack addict or something, like a crack addict. Like, you can be an ex-crack addict if you don't use crack anymore. So like murdering, so are you a murderer forever? Is that like the stamp for you forever? You are the murderer forever? Or can you be an ex-murderer if you never murder again? These are the thoughts, my friends. Have a great day. Bye.